Hey guys, this is Austin. Today I'm here in New York City for the launch of the new Samsung Galaxy Note 8. My first thought with the Note 8 is that it actually does feel a little bit different to the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus. So when you look at it up front, it looks very, very similar. Yes, it does have a 6.3-inch display instead of 6.2 on the S8 Plus, but in hand, it actually has a little bit more of an edge. Before, it was very much sort of like a tapered thing all the way from the screen to the back, but now there's actually something to grab onto. The Note 8 still has the Infinity display, so this means that it has super small bezels on top and bottom, it does have a curved display on the edges, and it also does have the sort of wraparound edge on both the left and right side. All this jargon means it actually does feel really nice in the hand. The Galaxy Note 8 is still going to be water resistant, which is nice, and taken as a whole, the hardware does feel very similar to the Galaxy S8, and especially the S8 Plus. It's not going to be a huge jump, but what you're really getting here is the S Pen, and especially that new dual camera setup. This guy is rocking a pair of 12 megapixel cameras that are very similar to the iPhone 7 Plus. So there's one wide angle lens as well as one telephoto. It's a 2x crop, and there's a lot of cool things that you can do with it. Not only do we have the wide angle lens, but you can also jump into the telephoto, and if we hit live focus, essentially what we should be able to do, so we actually just took 3 photos. So not only did it use the wide angle shot, but we also do have the telephoto, and we have a version with background blur. So what's interesting about the Note 8 is you can actually adjust this. So you can basically turn it all the way off or go maximum blur. Looking at it closely, it looks decent, but he's a little bit soft. Now, I think that's actually an issue I've found a lot with the iPhone 7 Plus with the portrait mode, and this is a sort of similar setup, but in theory, they actually have done a better job of implementing it by actually allowing you to take multiple photos. However, this, while it did a good job of sort of isolating him from the background, it looks very similar to what you get on the iPhone. Now, beyond that, it's a fairly similar setup. Like I said, they're both 12 megapixels, and to my eye, it looks pretty similar to the photos you're getting on the Galaxy S8, but thankfully, there is no camera bump. What's not great about that is that it also means that the fingerprint sensor is still going to be around back. So it is still very, very easy to accidentally touch your camera when you really mean to unlock the phone. So Jimmy, what are your thoughts on the Galaxy Note 8?
Dude, it fits in my hands. It's crazy. It's fine. Like, I like iPhone, but the screen is really nice and it's fast.
I think I'm gonna take over the video again.
Yeah, take it.
The Note 8 is rocking a 6.3-inch Super AMOLED display. Now, I think honestly this is probably one of the best smartphone displays around, but Samsung has kind of been on top of the game for a couple years now here. I've got to admit, when the Galaxy S8 came out, I felt like that was the best hardware on any phone, and the Note is super similar. So it still does have not only USB-C, but also a headphone jack, which is nice to see. But of course, being a Note, it does have the S Pen. The S Pen has gained a few new features, like you can use it to translate text, as well as of course you can use it to doodle and sketch and that kind of stuff. Now I know a lot of people do really like the S Pen, but personally, I don't find a ton of use for a stylus on a phone. And that actually brings us to one of the downsides of the Note 8. It has a fairly small 3300 milliamp hour battery. Now for comparison, the Galaxy S8 Plus with a slightly smaller screen has a 3500 milliamp hour battery. The Note 7 was a big part of the presentation today. So in case you've been living under a rock, the Galaxy Note 7 was kind of a big deal. And by big deal, I mean it kept exploding and yeah, did not go well. So of course, the battery is smaller here. I think they're being a little bit more conservative, and I think that is a good thing. But it also means that with such a giant display and pretty powerful specs, I'm curious to see what the actual battery life is going to be. Inside, the Note 8 is rocking a Snapdragon 835 processor, as well as an Exynos option in some international markets. It has 6 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, as well as a micro SD card slot. So this is very similar to what you're getting on the Galaxy S8. The biggest difference is you do have that 2 extra gigs of RAM, but to be totally honest, it's going to be a very similar experience. The Note 8 also has a Bixby button, because you know, that was a huge hit on the S8. It launches Bixby, which still exists. It's slightly better now. Moving on, what is a little bit cooler is DeX. So this is Samsung's solution to be able to turn your phone into somewhat of a desktop. So if you get the DeX dock, you can hook up a monitor, mouse, keyboard, kind of like some of the Windows Phone stuff that I've taken a look at recently. Now this actually worked pretty well on the Galaxy S8, and they've done even more improvements with more apps and more features on the Note 8. It's still not quite there for me, as essentially you're just running windowed Android apps, but I feel like as this gets better and better, it's going to become more and more of a reason to pick up a Samsung device. Which brings me to my next point, the rest of the software. It's exactly the same as the Galaxy S8, kind of a trend with this video, I think. So it's not bad, it's not like TouchWiz back in the day, but it is nowhere near stock Android. And because of that, this guy is shipping with Android 7.1 Nougat as opposed to Oreo, which of course is not quite out yet, but still expect a little bit of a delay on getting updates with this, just like every other Samsung phone. One cool thing Samsung did with the Note 8 software is App Pair. So this is kind of like Spaces on your desktop. You can have a pair of apps set to automatically open together, and they will have the correct sort of multitasking setup, and that is kind of cool. For example, you could have YouTube launch with, say, Twitter or whatever you want to do, and you can have that kind of custom. It's not a huge feature, but I guess it's something. With the Note 8, Samsung have taken what is arguably one of the best designed phones out on the market right now and added the S Pen as well as the dual camera setup. Now, if you're looking for a large screen smartphone, honestly, it's kind of a no-brainer over the S8 Plus. I feel like the dual cameras alone are going to make it worth it. But what do you guys think about the Galaxy Note 8? Let me know in the comments below and I will catch you in the next one.